Cool. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to podcast number 2 for Stack the Box. Just a reminder, my name is Rob Gambolati, typically with the Tamaki Lightning, and I'm here with
Ben Freeman from the Hamilton Hawks.
Sam Pilisi from the Metro Lions.
Sweet. And so, hopefully we'll get into these a little bit faster as the season kicks off, but it's been, 3 weeks since our last one? And since then, so Sunday, the 2nd of August, the AFA had their SGM to check out Shiraz's new proposal, and I think that passed unanimously. 2 clubs weren't present, so neither the Wolves or the Wildcats attended the meeting, I think. But I'm sure they love the idea too. I'm sure they're all on board, keen to get into it. I guess we'll find out when the season starts. Were either of you at the SGM?
I wasn't. I know Ethan from the Hawks attended. I watched the hour and a half video recording of the meeting and in my spare time and brushed over the financial report side of things. But when it got to the meat of it all, it was interesting discussion. Really, it's good.
Cool.
No, I wasn't there. I didn't watch an hour and a half, but I got a brief little summary. Little whispers in the chat group of sort of what seemed to be the go from some of the people from our club.
Yeah, cool. So, and so I guess, would you guys mind? So, yeah, I'm the same, hour and a half. Yeah, Freeman got too much time down there in Hamilton, obviously. No, I love it. And I love that Shiraz is sharing that stuff. I love that he's putting it out there so that everybody can see it. Nothing to hide there. But yeah, I guess one quick takeaway from what you've heard or what you saw, what's the main message, I guess, you would give to people who don't want to sit through that hour and a half that you took away from it? Go ahead, Freeman.
Just, I guess the main thing, like you touched on, that it was unanimously voted, all clubs in attendance. So I think there were 6 voted in favour for it, with the caveat that there'd be a working group set up for a potential look into the Colts, running an 11-man competition in that elite window in the new year, alongside the senior comp there, just to have another higher level of on-field quality product, and so we go. But in general, everyone was pretty for it, and even the ones who did have that little itch were like, no, let's get amongst. So yeah, it's good.
Cool. What were some of the whispers you heard, Sam?
Yeah, no, I think just a burning desire across the clubs for change rather than staying in the status quo. And I think the proposed, the accepted plan now, or the new way forward, dissects the season up into sort of different spurts or different mini seasons within that. And I think our club's just cautiously moving forward, supporting what's ahead, but looking obviously to get the best out of it for our players. And sort of give them a variety of experiences through the year, and then obviously just grow from that.
Yeah, and change we've got. Last time we talked about, is it too much change? Is it going to be too much for everybody to manage? Like trying to throw it all at one time. I guess we'll find out. But hey, if everybody's supporting and everybody's on board, hopefully we get that support and it shows up on Saturdays, and people are on board. I guess that'll be the real talk when we're sitting here April, May next year going, okay, so clearly that didn't work. and we'll see what kind of conversations we're having going into season number 2 with Shiraz at the helm of the AFA. I guess the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is that we're about 3 weeks away from the proposed start date. Without going into too much detail, clearly Freeman's living the free life down in level 2 Hamilton, but we're all locked down up here in Auckland, man. You guys can't come and play if this doesn't change in the next 2 weeks.
We ain't even allowed in, so yeah.
You're going to have to start up the Hamilton comp, man, and everybody from Wellington North is going to come and play in that comp where y'all are still allowed to visit each other. But apart from the whole COVID disruption that we're experiencing 2.0, I've heard whispers of field availability. So kicking off the season before our summer season actually begins, what happens if we don't have fields to play on because rugby and league and those winter sports football are still going on those fields? I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, fields are at a premium in Auckland, being squeezed out in different areas, mainly for housing. But I think if we can't find outdoor venues, then either the AFA or with the support of NZF needs to find other suitable private sort of venues, be it indoor or outdoor, as opposed to just relying on publicly accessible fields that are often used by multiple sports teams. And yeah, it's right in the thick of winter sports now. And without being disrespectful to ourselves, I think we'll find ourselves at the bottom of the food chain.
Which we typically have been. I mean, not only because people don't know we're a minority sport, a lot of people don't know about gridiron, but man, I'm sure some of the council crew are like, oh my God, I got to paint that gridiron field again. Like, I mean, that must take hours compared to your standard rugby and league field.
Yeah. They did it pretty quick at Mountford this past summer, and marked us out a 110-yard long field, which was pretty strange to turn up to that first time. But they got it cheap for the later games or something. But yeah, I know that there's been a couple of long afternoons in the past from our club captains down there with the old mates paint sprayer and things like that. But yeah, that field availability side of thing is going to be quite an issue, and look, it might call for a bit of some quick decision making, especially in this first window, won't it, for the flag and any kind of big man clinics that want to take place. Yeah.
And I mean, a few things going on there, because now we've got disruptions that are beyond our control, that are beyond global virus control. But I mean, even if we don't have this whole like lockdown situation, like that's a situation that's frustrating when you hit those barriers that are beyond your control. Like, man, we got people who want to play, we just don't have the space. And the whole refereeing thing, that's a big barrier for me, and we'll bring that up. Like, that'll be a whole nother conversation another time. But finances too, like you were talking about, Sam, talking about maybe we need to pay for a place. Like, I'm sure we got plenty to talk about in terms of AFA finances. That'll be a whole nother podcast at another time too, and where that lies in the priority chain of what we should be and could be spending our money on. But yeah. I guess when the line painters Googled, they came up with the CFL markings that weekend, I guess.
They had all four ATVs out there redoing it, I think, about an hour before kickoff. So there were some repainted jerseys, I think, that Saturday. But yeah, we managed to work it all out. It was all right.
Nice. I mean, do you think people, like, if we get people who are coming from league and rugby and other winter sports, do you think they'll want to go straight into the season as well? Or do you think they like having a week off every now and then? Or do you think they'll be keen to get straight back into it?
I know in the past, sorry to say about that, in the past for about 8-9 years, I went back to back, just doing rugby and football. It meant that definitely when, for pre-season for both the sports, you come in tip-top shape, which was ideal. A couple of weeks off was definitely necessary. So it's going to be pretty tight this time around for sure. And yeah, I guess that's down to personal preference in it really for the players. But yeah.
What do you reckon, Sam? Have you done many back-to-back winter, summer, straight in, straight out?
Oh, machines don't rest, Gambo. You should know that. You're the leader of the pack. You're prime athlete.
That's why I'm asking. I don't know, man. I've always had like at least 7 months off.
Now, yeah, from most of our players that might go between sports, especially in the younger years, just enjoy it, eh?
Yeah.
Young men typically love being active.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see many of them coming in too banged up, like you coming in tip-top shape. But it's often at the end of the season, you're kind of niggly, little injuries, bruised and banged up, coming from one contact to another. No big deal.
I think my biggest issue was always jumping back into rugby and then tackling with my head on the wrong side of the body. And I got the air split a couple of times from some number 8s and things like that. But that only took a week or two to get back into the swing of things. But generally, it was pretty sweet, really, being hardened a bit, yeah. And
that's go ahead, Sam.
I think only time will tell, perhaps, if there's player fatigue going between sports, and now our extended season, which definitely creeps into the back end of winter seasons, and then so obviously into the front end of the winter seasons as well. So I think for those that might see football as the second passion, they might get squeezed out a bit and might start to prioritize being at the business end of their winter season, and prioritizing that in terms of finals footy or anything else, and then coming to Jam for a small little window, whatever that looks like, and then jumping out, even if it's premature of some of the cool things that we might have, to really kickstart some of their winter sports in the front end of the campaign. Because at the moment we just run on passion, so to speak. Some of the other sports might have an extra $200 for your gas or your food or anything else for the week, which at the moment we don't compete with.
And I guess that's what we're going to get to, isn't it? A product that people want to come along and play. So this is well organised, and look, a couple of the guys from the club made it over to the States last year, or vice versa, right? That's I guess that is what Shiraz's dream is. So we're out there competing as a not such a minority sport anymore. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I guess the bottom line too is the way the season's formulated now. Like, people will be coming into a flag or a big man comp, and I don't really know a whole lot about the big man comp. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of physical nature to it, but not 8-man 11 aside physical. I can't imagine. So they're potentially coming into a less physical competition to start with, anyways. And whether they love that or hate it, yeah, like you said, well, time will tell. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, so we got the flag comp, the big man comp, which I believe they're running in conjunction with the NSC, the Nua brothers, which is great to see them getting on board with that's an abundance of experience. And so, yeah, I love that they're getting back involved.
Are those guys based here? Sorry, are the Nua brothers based here in Auckland, or are they back and forward between here and the States? Or
no, 3 of them are based here.
Oh, nice. All right, cool.
Mark Nua just recently relocated from Sydney, and so they're all around central Auckland, so to speak.
Cool.
And so, yeah, and then we've got this Colts 11-man, as you mentioned earlier, Freeman. So a few people were kind of iffy about the whole Colts only playing an 8-man competition. And there's some whispers, and Shiraz even mentioned that there's some exploration going on. So the idea was that we're going to run this flag, this big man comp, and then the Colts 8-man comp before, or everybody 8-man comp, right? It's not limited to Colts. Seniors get an 8-man comp as well before Christmas. And then after Christmas, this elite 11-man comp that's seniors only. Yep. And but yeah, you mentioned that a few people are going, okay, well, why can't the Colts play this 11-man elite competition as well? And what are some of the reasons that you've heard as to why people want the Colts playing that 11-man?
I mean, I think there was, don't know whether it was made clear on the initial proposal that 18-year-olds, so Colts players, 18 and 19, were going to be eligible for that elite window to play in the senior comp. And then 17-year-olds could, with guardian and coach consent, that whether or not that wasn't clear. So it forced a couple of people to speak up about, having a Colts only comp. Or just I guess safety aspects or whatever else, but that was definitely brought up as an issue, because otherwise that Colts age group, we're just going to be doing some kind of high performance camps and sort of things, and lead into kind of national team selection stuff. But I guess really, that window after Christmas in the new year is, I think, about 6 weeks. So if there's 4 teams, what's that? You play each other once, and then you have a straight final or something, which I'm sure can be done, and see how we go. I don't know yet who's part of that working group, but Shiraz did mention in the meeting that it was going to be, a couple of the returning head coaches of that age group, and then and Shiraz himself was always he's going to sit in on those meetings and chuck some ideas around and see how it goes. So it's not decided upon yet, and I'm sure. Who knows, maybe might be right up until kind of midway through the 8-man or something, but definitely in the coming months we should know some details will come out about that, and AFA will have another vote, no doubt, about that.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll certainly be watching the space to find out whether that gets finalized at the end of the day or not. But I mean, going back to that idea of the 17-year-olds with parent consent, 18-year-olds being eligible to play in it, but let's be honest, like in the premier teams that have played in the history of the AFA competition, how many 18-year-olds have you had kind of starting and shining and things like that? And I mean, I'm sure there's been an abundance of, I mean, hey, machines never rest. I know, Sam, you always working, but I'm sure there's a bit of that has been the political, like those people over 25, 30 who just won't get off the field, and they've got that mana with the club, and the young 18-year-old is probably a better athlete, but they're going, nah, sorry, you're not getting in today, son. And maybe with the limited elite competition, coaching will be a little bit higher spec, and maybe those decisions will be made by people on the sidelines, not those kind of veterans on the field. But I mean, would you, in your experience, let's start with you, Sam, in your experience, how many 17, 18-year-olds would legitimately have started and shown in premier sides that you've been a part of and played against?
I support blooding in younger players through senior teams. I think this is definitely a different era to when I first started, which it was very common to have young guys playing in senior teams. And it was a mixture of obviously practicalities. Some teams just didn't have enough players. So would blood in younger players and chuck them on the field after their juniors, which at the time was under 18s. There was no Colts grade when I was around. And then secondly, yeah, there were some young guys that just were athletes, faster, could move around, could go both ways better. I think my first year in the seniors, I was 18. I had about maybe 9 or 10 guys from our juniors team come up the year prior. I ended up playing defense on our defensive team. Out of the starting 11, probably about 9 would have been under 23 or 22. I know it's not the same because our club has always had juniors. Then we've had Colts, and so we've had lots of families and brothers come through. And we often tend to start a bit earlier. That's worked well for us, typically. And then I guess now in the last 5-10 years, the landscape has changed, the rules have changed. And so often, even when we have younger guys in our courts who we think could add value, or who are busting to go, and even because we're mocking them that we played when we were younger, we can't do so. So I guess they're a little bit restricted. I get there's some player safety around that. And yeah, times do change. But when I was coming through, it was very normal. And there's many of the guys that I ended up playing with. We started early, and we ended up we started in terms of obviously getting regular playing time or becoming the starting player, because we had tangible skills coming through the junior ranks. So we were definitely better than the fresh 25-year-old rookie that came from league and that maybe was a bit strong. We'd already played 2-3 seasons in the junior grade. Might have been a little bit lighter against some of the bigger guys, but we learned to handle our own. So in that sort of way, it worked well for us. But I think it may not be the same because we had a pipeline, and we've continued to have a pipeline in terms of younger grades. It might not be the same for all clubs.
That's definitely a good point about playing. You know, if you've had a couple of years playing experience, football's a sport where that's immeasurable, really. And you can get a huge head up. I'm not the best athlete, but my head always got me, you know, into the position. Who was able to, you know, out leverage someone or out position someone because, yeah, like you're saying, you just a couple of years more experience, you get into the right spot. You know, beat them to the edge because they didn't know you're going there, or give them a bit of head fake or something. But yeah, it's those younger players come along as long as they've had a couple of years in the juniors and Colts. It makes a huge difference for sure. Yeah. Yeah,
and I'd love to see those pipelines. I hope those pipelines are still continuing to grow and only getting better. And so, yeah, I have no doubt that there's 17, 18-year-olds out there that could play in the premiers very easily. I'm just wondering how many of them normally would, given the kind of political nature of some of our premier teams and the positions that people have spent years earning, and then going, sorry, young buck, wait your turn kind of thing. And just hoping that coaching kind of kicks in a little bit more. But I guess then again, if we take some of the top 17 and 18-year-olds out of and put them into the elite 11-man comp, is there going to be enough to make an 11-man Colts comp at the same time worthwhile potentially? So almost a catch-22 going on there. And again, that's one of those things that we can't answer right now. We'll have a lot more conversation, a lot more stuff to talk about once we've seen this run one time, and see what it looks like after 1 year. But yeah, but I guess I've heard there's been a lot of whispers too about people unhappy about this 8-man the Colts being limited to 8-man in terms of it as a stepping stone into the 11-man comp, especially if we're trying to get film on some of these young fellas and potentially sending them overseas, hopefully to the U.S. for greener pastures, potentially some high school, some university opportunities, and how well they're going to transition from this 8-man to the 11-man competition that they may be playing in over there. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I mean, just from a football point of view, the skills don't change. It's schematically, that's going to be the difference. I know we're looking to probably end up developing some pretty good blocking tight ends. They'll be playing tackle in certain formations and things, and trying to. So I'm going through the process now of kind of developing playbooks and things for the club now, and just trying to keep some streamlined verbiage around our formations and some simplicity, which is easy to add on to. So when it moves on to the 11-man side of things, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's still football. Hey, you're still defeating blocks. It's still pursuit. You're running lanes. The holes are pretty much, they're all numbered the same. So you can still run old, tried and true pass concepts and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I think we were talking earlier, off screen about it being not. I don't think it shouldn't be an issue that that people. Not, it shouldn't be a roadblock to that. It's still getting film on film, still getting skills on there, and yeah, I think it's good to go, really.
What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, just echo what Freeman said. We need games to be played. We can't afford for games to start and end even before the whistle's done because of player numbers. I think we need to protect the quality in terms of numbers of teams to be able to participate. And for me, I feel our role as a league is to have games played through these windows, is to give basic foundation football skills, be it blocking on the line, or sort of backpedaling on defense, or running routes. I think that we shouldn't get too caught up in trying to replicate a high-performing 11-man comp for 17, 18, 19-year-olds. And at any which case, it's always going to be a transition, be it 8-man or 11-man, going from here in Manurewa or anywhere we play Hamilton to go to the States. We can work on foundational skills. And obviously, if they've got the physical attributes and a little bit of some stuff up here, then that's going to send them far. I think we need to ensure that the season goes ahead. And I think most people would know in the last couple of years, the faults have come to the fore, and everyone gets annoyed at that. So I guess this is one solution to ensuring that these games go ahead. Pathways will come when they're ready. But I think in any case, our job is to just do the basic foundation skills, and the rest will sort itself out when they get over there.
Yeah, because I mean, and just hearing you guys speak and just thinking about this right now, the reality is that film, if you're playing 8-man, you're probably going to get called out a lot more of not being able to do it properly than you can in 11-man. Because in 11-man, you might be able to hide, you might get lost in the mix a little bit more. But if you're a tackle in 8-man, there's only 2 other linemen, and if you're not getting in that good position, you're getting beat. You're going to see that. If you're a linebacker and you're running the wrong lines, you're going to get beat, and you're going to see that very clearly. So yeah, if anything, people have to be good to get good film, because it's going to get picked up really obviously in that 8-man format, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, and just sorry, guys, who do work well in space. It's going to showcase that natural talent that a lot of New Zealanders seem to produce. There's going to be a bit of room there. So once the ball's in the hand, so that could be a silver lining as well. Those ball carriers for sure. Go to work. Yeah.
And then jumping to what you had mentioned earlier, Gambo, about a little task force for this Colts sort of grade with the 8-man on the table, and I think obviously an evolving conversation around a 11-man elite for them also. If I jump in and add to that, I think there should be a task force for each grade. There's a lot of stuff to look at. And I think there needs to be targeted view across each grade and take it for what it is and given its context, with obviously aligned objectives to the wider goal of obviously growing the sport and producing good quality. But I think there are challenges and also opportunities that are unique to each grade. They need to apply it as such. And I think that be the juniors, the colts, the women, and the seniors, and they need to be applied as such. Otherwise, this watered down cookie cutter approach is going to be hit and miss in different leagues, because they're all sort of facing different challenges and issues.
Yeah, I like the transparency that Shiraz has approached us with so far. So no doubt the findings from the working group for this Colts team will be shared and definitely talked about, and yeah, hopefully looked at more throughout the grades will be good. Yeah.
And I guess just one final point, like in terms of people who are wondering how valuable an 8-man competition is for people going into an 11-man competition. I guess the All Blacks have never had any problems taking somebody from the 7s comp and putting them into 15s and having them be pretty successful still.
Mm-hmm.
So there's pretty good. I mean, even though it's a different sport, there's pretty good proof that people can transition from a smaller aspect of a sport. And plenty of 11-man people who've gone into arena and vice versa. And so I think we've seen plenty of examples of athletes who can transition and adapt to that slightly different environment. Yeah, and hopefully, yeah. And again, if people engage in those big man comps in the flag, then that 8-man comp should be really good too, because they should be bringing all that stuff into that 8-man comp and hopefully being able to display it in a more physical nature than what they might have done in the weeks leading up to it.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to add real quickly before we wrap it up for tonight?
Nah, I think flags in a couple of weeks' time.
Countdown is on, man.
On, yeah.
At
least those people in Hamilton can go out to a reserve and throw a pigskin back and forth. We're not even allowed to do that up here right now, man. It's breaking bubbles, I think. I don't know, but
practices over Zoom.
Right?
Yeah.
Lots of video sessions in the build up to the season this year.
Yeah.
So do you think in a couple of weeks, if flags going ahead, that we might include any of the teams if they're made known by then, and just some of their thoughts of what that format might look like? Or
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I reckon let's get a plan going forward, and yeah, in a few weeks coming up, I reckon let's get us through lockdown. See what the government suggests, because when we can't leave our houses, we can't train. Once we know what's more is going on about that, and once we know that the season's going to kick off, we got fields and all that stuff, I reckon we definitely will start getting some of that information out to the community. Hopefully some people will start using this space as a place to find out about what's happening. And yeah, we'll start chatting with people who are involved and yeah, get some of that conversation going.
Yep,
Does that sound good?
For sure. For anyone out there listening and watching, feel free to get in contact with any of us and offer your thoughts, and yeah, come on, make some guest appearances. Nice.
Yeah, man, we got room for at least 57 more people on this Zoom.
A lot more squares to fill up weekend in the Zoom room.
Sweet. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and sign us off for tonight and just cut it off here. And yeah, we look forward to catching up again in a few weeks' time.
Well, see you, fam.